Welcome to toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi. Now, I was recently sent this Micronauts Space Glider figure by Nick from Sydney Vintage Toys because the poor guy's had his head snapped off. Now, this is a fairly common problem with these old action figures. These ones are made out of a die-cast metal and the head is actually made out of plastic, so it's very easy to snap the head off. Now, normally with a figure like this you would just try and replace the head, but on these ones they've actually been riveted together, so you can't get the body apart. You'd have to drill out the rivet. So I thought today I'd try and see if I could repair this broken neck just using techniques that don't involve taking the figure apart. Straight away on this figure you can see that someone has actually tried to glue this at one point and glue the head back on. So there's a lot of old glue sort of residue on both the neck and the underside of the head. So I'm just going to use a little knife here to carefully sort of crunch off the old glue. It's obviously been done a long time ago. These figures are about sort of 30-40 years old. I think this one was released, let me have a look, 1976. So yes, these are over 40 years old. So this glue is bound to be quite brittle, which it is, and you can hear it sort of crunching away there just as I'm rubbing the knife blade over it, which is quite good because it means you can just sort of pick off the old glue without too much effort. Because what we're going to do is get that down to the bare plastic, and we'll do the same on this neck peg. Again, I can actually see the glue on this. It's obviously quite thick old glue, but that's good. It is going to chip off quite nicely. Now that that glue is off, we can work out how we're going to go about sticking this back together. Most people would normally just try and glue those two bits together, but that doesn't give it enough strength. I like to always insert something into the head and into the neck to try and give it that extra little bit of strength and support. Now, normally I would use a piece of Lego. I would use something like this Lego aerial. This is about a 2mm sort of thick rod, but actually the neck hole on this little Space Glider is probably only about 2.5mm across, so it's going to be a little bit too thick to use. So the next thing I would use after that is a paper clip. You can see here I have a normal metal paper clip, and this stuff is nice and strong and only just about 1mm in diameter. So what we need to do is drill a very small 1mm hole into this neck post here inside the body, and we'll also do the same on the inside of his neck, the hole there on the bottom of his head, and we'll insert a bit of this paperclip in there, glue it in place, and then we can insert it back in the hole on the neck. Now this is going to be a fairly tricky job, mainly because I have a feeling this neck post might try and sort of spin around in the hole. I'm hoping that if I go slow enough I should just be able to drill a hole without the neck but sort of peg twisting in the hole, but we'll just have to see how that goes. So let's get my drill out. This is a 1.5mm drill bit. I do have one that's slightly smaller, but I think 1.5 should be about right. Maybe I can try a smaller one. Just let me line this up. Might try a smaller one just because the little bit of paperclip here is a little bit thinner. And we'll see if we can drill some holes. So the first hole to drill is in the head because I think that will be easiest. I have put in a 1mm drill bit. I would suggest using a vise or something to hold this in. I'm doing this on camera, so I'm just going to do it by hand, but a vise would make this a lot easier. But let's see if I can actually get this to drill in the centre and a small enough hole. Well, that was actually not too bad. You can see I've got a hole there. It's about 1mm. Let's see if this little bit of metal will go inside. I'm hoping. Oh yeah, look at that. Perfect. That's about the right size then. So now for my next trick I'm going to drill a hole in the neck post that's inside the body. Now my worry with this is that this neck post, because it's actually a little ball inside, is going to spin around, but I'll just have to take this slowly and see if I can drill it in, and I'm hoping that it will go okay. Wow, that seems to have gone remarkably smoothly. The ball didn't spin around, which is what I was worried about. You can see I've got a small hole there inside the neck post. Let me take the little paper clip out of that. We can see if I can drop that in. Yeah, look at that. All moves around. So, next trick is gluing this all in place. Now to glue this, I'm just going to use some standard super glue, and I'm going to drop a very small amount on the end of this paper clip. Just a tiny little blob, because you don't want it to spread anywhere else on the toy. So you can see I've got a very small amount on the end of that. And I'm going to push that into the neck hole first. And we'll let that go off so that it goes nice and solid. And then we can trim off the excess wire just using a pair of wire cutters, and we'll do the same and glue the head in place. That is looking pretty good. Now I want to work out how deep the hole is inside this head that I've drilled, so I'm just going to slot that onto the other end of the paper clip, and then I'm going to mark it with my finger and pull the head off, and you can see it's about that long. So as long as we cut this bit of wire shorter than that, it should fit inside the head. So let's just trim that down like so. We're left with just a short bit of wire coming out of the neck hole. That should still all move around, which it does. I can now just check that this actually is going to fit. So let's pop the head on. You can see that's working pretty nicely. And again, now I'm just going to drop a little bit of super glue onto this paper clip, maybe a little bit more than I did on the neck, because actually we can sort of use the neck to glue a bit as well. So just a little bit of super glue there, and when you push the head on, it does squash the super glue down, so you don't want too much. So let's just push this on. We can glue that in place, and we'll let that glue go off, and then see how well his head works. I've now given the glue time to dry, and as you can see, the head is actually pretty firmly held on. I can sort of be fairly forceful moving it around. It rotates again. So that's a pretty good fix. Obviously these figures would be much better if they had a screw in the back of them. The original Japanese versions did have screws holding them together. For some reason, when they sort of brought these over to the West and released them in the UK and the US, they changed everything to rivets and sort of simplified the toy design. So you'll often find these with broken heads, but as you can see, it can be fixed just if you're careful with a little bit of screwing there and a little bit of a use of a paper clip, and you can get the head back on. So I'm really pleased that that's all fixed. I must say a massive thank you to Nick from Sydney Vintage Toys for sending this to me. I do like a little challenge like this, and it's nice to be able to fix a toy that would otherwise sort of go in the scrap heap. So thanks again to him. Hope this has been of interest to you, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching Toy-Polloi. Subscribe for more great videos.